I have a timely resource for a very specific group of you. If you remember listening to episode 51, How to Use Your School Counseling Skills in Private Practice, you'll remember my friend and former colleague, Lorraine Holman. Lorraine set out to start her own private practice and now wants to teach you why you should and how to open your own viable private practice as a licensed professional counselor. Join Lorraine at a live 2-day virtual private practice workshop for school counselors. This 4.5-hour training will cover LPC licensure steps, private practice documentation essentials, developing your niche and ideal client, maximizing your profit, marketing for beginners, and essential mindset shifts from school counseling to private practice. You'll walk away from this workshop with the tools and confidence that you need to launch your private practice as a full-time or part-time option. Register today for this paid workshop. Space is limited to 15 school counselors and it costs $259. I'm a huge fan of Lorraine and the work that she's doing as an LPC supervisor and a former high school counseling department head. Head back to episode 51 to hear more about her story, but more importantly, if you have a tug to learn more about the practicalities of moving into private practice, I want you to head to counselorclick.com/private practice to learn more and sign up. That's counselorclick.com/private practice, and I hope you'll get to learn from Lorraine at the live workshops on June 7th and 14th. Okay, practically speaking, y'all, you know I have a baby, and so it is hard. I'm just being honest right here as we start this episode. It is hard for me to find time to record an episode when it's quiet in my house. And I know as we go into summer, it's only going to get harder because I will have some help over the summer since school is out with my kids. But a lot of times it's hard to get them out of the house so I can record podcasts. So I am being stretched to my capacity in all senses, being a new parent of 3 girls, but also in the podcasting and business world as well, being able to sustain getting this out there. So I never miss an episode. I never miss a week. And I have said before, who knows what the future of this will be. And right now I'm still trudging forward and making time and being able to do it. So thanks for being here with me. I am so glad that you're back for another episode of High School Counseling Conversations. I want this episode to feel like part pep talk, part tough love. We're good at giving and receiving that as high school counselors, right? Part encouragement, and then some next steps. So everything I'm saying in this episode, I would go back and tell myself as a beginning high school counselor. We're going to be talking about things that I want you to quit worrying about as a brand new high school counselor. Let's get into this week's episode. You got into this profession to make a difference in your students' lives, but you're spread thin by all of the things that keep getting added to your to-do list. I can't create more hours in the day, but I can invite you into my Counselor Click where you'll finally catch your breath. Come with me as we unpack creative ideas and effective strategies that'll help you be the counselor who leaves a lifelong impact on your students. I'm Lauren Tingle, your high school counseling hype girl, here to help you energize your school counseling program and remind you of how much you love your job. Okay, the first thing I want you to quit worrying about what the counselor before you did or what they were like. So I know it's tempting to compare yourself to someone, potentially someone that you probably did not even know. So you're stepping into a new role. There was probably a person here doing this role before you. I say probably because maybe there's a chance that you're starting at a brand new school or they got the opportunity to hire another position for a counselor. But probably like 80% of us are stepping into a role where somebody else has left that role. So you're going to have students or parents come to you and say, but Mrs. So-and-so said this or promised this. And I want to tell you, I'm giving you permission. You can only do what you can do with the information that you have and what the rules are right now. I will say sometimes this is an opportunity for parents or students to pull the wool over your eyes and to get something that somebody else has already told them no to. And what's coming to mind is I'm thinking about scheduling or things that were promised in the past. And I'm doing air quotes on promised because who knows if they were genuinely promised or if they're just saying that to you. This might refer to how the counselors let students come in and see them and hang out in their office. Like they might be coming to you saying, well, why are you making me go back to class? Mrs. So-and-so let me sit here instead of going to this class. I didn't like PE, and so she would let me sit in here during this time. Okay, you're not a bad person or a bad counselor if you make students go to class instead of hanging out in your office. You know that's not what your role is. You've got tons of other stuff to get done. And who knows, maybe the reason that counselor isn't there anymore is because they didn't have boundaries about stuff like that. So don't let the ghost of the counselor before you stir up insecurities that don't need to be there, or don't let those take up space in your brain. You got hired because you had valuable things to bring to this position, including your experiences. Even if that's not a lot of experience, maybe that's just your experiences from your practicum and your internship. It's expected that you would be a different person than the counselor who came before you. Like, they hired you, they know who you are or what you have presented to them, and they wanted you to fit into that position. So let's file that away in our brain as a positive, that you are not the person who came before you. So we've got to quit worrying about what that person did and what they were like. Number 2, I want you to quit worrying about working over the summer. So if they tell you that your contract doesn't start until July 1st or August 1st, I want you to enjoy this while you can. There will be plenty of time for onboarding, getting your keys and your lanyard and your ID, setting up your computer and your printer. You may be the only new counselor in your school, but you won't be the only new person in general in your school. I can almost guarantee that. So your principal, their secretary, or someone else in the school who this is their role, they definitely have some sort of onboarding checklist that they're going to go through to get you situated. Especially in the high school setting, and that's probably you if you're listening to this, you will most likely always find yourself working in the summers from here on out, or like just at least for a few days, if not a lot of days. So my advice is, if they tell you to enjoy the remainder of your summer, listen to them. Take advantage of it. Work will be there when you return. Think about it like pre-practicing your boundaries, like in a really easy way before you're even 100% immersed in this role. I say easy because someone else is telling you this. Someone is giving you this direction to enjoy your summer. So embrace it and live your free summer life to the fullest before your real world adult job starts. The third thing I want you to quit worrying about as a brand new counselor going into the summer, I want you to quit worrying about making mistakes. Because I'm going to be honest with you here, you will make them. So let's not ruminate on those or lose sleep over them yet, because they will come. I have to laugh. I used to work with a counselor who was on her way out. Like, she was only a few more years away from retirement. So she would always tell me, if something goes wrong, blame it on me. I'm retiring soon anyways. And this comment mostly came out when I was the test coordinator of the required state exit exam in the 10th grade, when I was just the 10th grade counselor. It also came out when I was in charge of the PSAT when I had 10th graders. So testing is a story for another day, but one, that always made me chuckle. Like, I laughed every time she would tell me that. And two, it always gave me some reassurance. I don't know if she meant it or not, but it made me feel at ease because I felt her loyalty to me and to her team as it like oozed out of her. It made me want to be that counselor in the future who could reassure a new counselor that everything would be okay. If I'd miscounted test booklets, she'd calm me down and go through it with me. Like, I was almost in tears counting test booklets in a closet with no windows. And again, I don't mean to harp on testing. It's not something that I want to do. It's not something I endorse you doing. But she stepped into that with me, and she would be in the closet going through those. And that leadership found its way into other areas too. Like, I had a lot of panicked moments where I thought, did I mess this kid's credits up? Can this student graduate? And she would take out her ruler to go line by line. That's how she would line it up on the transcript. And then this would be her version of picking through it with a fine-tooth comb. She'd look at each line and she'd help me think through the graduation requirements and make sure that I didn't make any mistakes. So there's no denying that the stakes are higher at the high school level than elementary or middle school. Now, you know, I have zero experience there in elementary and middle other than my practicum and my internship, but the graduation rates alone are enough to make you lose sleep, let alone the heavy emotional burdens, the retention rates, the failing grades. I'm not here to freak you out, remember? It does feel like you're juggling a lot because you are. Thankfully, though, you're not in this alone. If you don't have a team and you're a solo counselor, there are teachers and administrators to lean on. Maybe you have the support of your district with truancy officers, dropout prevention specialists, social workers, mental health therapists, like lots of people. Like the Drew Holcomb and the Neighbors song that I'm obsessed with right now, you gotta find your people. I'll spare you my singing, but go listen to that song. Find your people. Find the people that you need in your circle so that you can do your job well, but also find the people who encourage you to keep moving forward when you make a big mistake, or the people who are going to be next to you encouraging you when you're fearful that you did make a big mistake. You nailed your interview, secured your dream job. What the heck do you do next? How do you know where to go from here? Imagine reducing your overwhelm with a guide that takes you through the step-by-step process of what needs to happen after you get the job. You don't deserve to waste your energy spinning your wheels every different direction. You've got other things to get to. Get the support you need to start your new role with confidence and clarity. Introducing the High School Counselor Kickstart course. This 8-episode private podcast will help you navigate the early years of your high school counseling career with confidence. In addition to the exclusive podcast episodes, you'll get episode transcripts, a workbook, a PD certificate, and 2 incredible bonuses that you don't want to miss: a high school counseling curriculum map and a sample needs assessment. Consider this your comprehensive survival kit for your beginning years as a high school counselor. Join us inside the High School Counselor Kickstart course by going to counselorclick.com/new counselor today. The fourth and final thing that I want you to quit worrying about as a brand new high school counselor, I want you to quit worrying about the fact that you have no idea what you're doing. Everyone started somewhere. We all know that. Think of other things that you started and then they became second nature. Like you didn't start as an expert. So story time. My daughter has this personality trait that I know she gets from my husband. I'm certain of it. They're both terrified of trying something new because they don't want to fail. Well, not fail. Like that feels really big. They just don't even want to mess up. And it's wild to me that something like this can manifest itself even in a 6-year-old. Y'all, she's finishing kindergarten this year. So those of you coming from elementary school already know this really well. I know that thoughts like this are so much more magnified when you're an adult. Like you've lived a lot more life. You know things can be a little bit more intimidating. There are a lot of things that you're going to try that are going to be new. But for them, it's not even like this perfectionist mindset. I would say they both are perfectionists. But it's more like they're concerned with looking dumb, looking stupid, or being embarrassed by getting something wrong. And I tell them, you have never done this before. No one is expecting you to do it without messing up. So, for example, my husband was like this when we went wakeboarding on a boat one time. He was so embarrassed because he had never done it before. I was like, we're out here having a good time. No one cares if you don't get it on the first try. And then my daughter, she signed up to take a dance class this semester. Well, I signed her up. And she was excited about it. And on the first day, she thought, what if I don't know how to do the dance moves? I was like, of course you're not going to know. No one has taught you that yet. No one is expecting you as a high school counselor to do this job without messing up. You're human. It's helpful to have my husband's perspective for me to understand that my daughter is not like me. It's not me. It's not in my natural inclination to even consider this to be a stressor, like looking dumb. I don't really care if I'm going to look dumb, if I'm trying something that's going to be fun and new and different. And I'm all about the experience. So if you are a person who naturally goes to the worst case scenario or has this inner critic yelling at you in your brain, telling you that you're headed for failure, let me be the one to encourage you and quiet that inner voice. Yes, you have a graduate degree in counseling. The counseling part is going to be the part that feels the most natural. You know how to do it. But unfortunately, there are lots of other parts of this job that you did not learn back in grad school. And maybe you learn them on the job in your internship, or there's scenarios that you have not had to walk through yet until you are the one with the responsibility. That can be intimidating. An angry parent marching into your office lobby, it's coming. But maybe you hadn't had the opportunity to handle that or bear the weight of that as an intern. A teacher turning on you and firing off an email for borrowing a student from their class, you'll get one of those. You might get more than one of those. Admin overstepping their boundaries when it comes to confidentiality. Just wait, it'll happen soon enough. You might not have had those kind of intimidating settings when you were an intern because you had that shade covering you of your supervisor who could bear the weight of those things. There are just too many possible scenarios to run through, but I'm telling you, you will not be prepared for nearly all of them. instead of turning this into a weakness as a new high school counselor, I hope you realize that the veteran counselors come up against these same weird one-off scenarios, and they're still working through those. They're still consulting with others. I don't want to say it doesn't get easier, because I swear, I do think it does get a little easier. But I think maybe just stop caring as much about what others think about you in this role, or stop worrying about getting fired because the likelihood of you getting fired is probably slim for just making a mistake. But I really just don't want you to fear looking dumb when you make mistakes. It's something you're going to learn through and you will grow through. So for next steps, I can always direct you back to the new High School Counselor podcast playlist with a compilation of all of my thoughts and jumblings and advice for new high school counselors. So, of course, you can search my blog for relevant blog posts, or you could head to Google and start piecing together what's next for you as a brand new high school counselor. As someone who has been helping new high school counselors get acclimated to this role for a little bit here, I'd love to point you in the direction of the High School Counselor Kickstart audio course that you've been hearing about. It's your roadmap for the journey I know you're ready to go on, and you're excited about going on this journey. We're going to put off these 4 things that you're currently worried about, and others more, I'm sure. I just mentioned 4 of them. And we're going to put on confidence, clarity, and support. I want you to know exactly what's inside this audio course. So I'll point you to episode 76 of the pod, where I give you a more detailed tour and a peek behind the scenes, because obviously I want you to join us inside the course, but I want it to be the right fit for you right now. If you've made it this far, I do also want to give you an exclusive podcast bonus offer. When you check out, use the code podcast20 for 20% off the course from now till the end of the month. You've got a few more days left to use it. If you end up listening to this episode at a later date than May 2024, when I put this episode out, I'm just going to tell you, I usually do a promo for this audio course once or twice a year, but I do always have it available without the promo whenever you want to jump in. So you can learn more about the audio course for new high school counselors by going to counselorclick.com/newcounselor. Remember, it's open all the time, but now would be the perfect time to jump in and prep for your new role if that's something you're moving into. And it's also the perfect time because it's on promotion with a discount. So remember to use that code podcast20 when you check out for 20% off. I'll see you next week. Thanks for listening to today's episode of High School Counseling Conversations. All the links I talked about today can be found in the show notes and also at counselorclick.com/podcast. Be sure to hit follow wherever you listen to your podcast so that you never miss a new episode. Connect with me over on Instagram. Feel free to send me a DM at counselorclick. That's CLIQUE. I'll see you next week.